chairs of the various committees are presenting, we don't see because it is stated that the pending bill should be the first charge. How come that is not reflected in our budgets so that this is sorted out? And then you have pending bills from the county government to institutions within the national government. How is that resolved? I'll give you an example. You have counties who have more than 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, pending bills to organizations such as KEMSA, where they are supposed to draw they draw some supplies of products and technologies, that is health products and technologies, and they take so long to pay. Now, how do we resolve that? Because you are releasing, the control of budget is releasing money to the counties. But these counties now, instead of going to buy those commodities from KEMSA and pay even their pending bills, they now go to chemists, other chemists, and fund institutions to purchase from there and keep the pending bill just still there. Thank you.
Thank you. I think the treasurer of the ruling party will be the last question, unless so that we can allow the minister to conclude.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Waziri, for a very good and elaborate presentation, which was very short and precise. My question goes to number one, I want to commend you for the securitization of the 7 shillings, because we have seen contractors getting back on site, and I think Kenyans are now happy, and they are seeing that this government is back on track and working. I have 1 or 2 questions. How can we make sure, or how will we make sure that Kenyans who feel disgruntled because of the payslip, we've eaten into their payslip, how can we make sure that they get more disposable income? I think that question was asked by Honorable Isuda, but it was not well answered. Number 2 is we intend to do the SGR all the way to Malaba. How do we intend to finance it? Last one, we also intend to do the Rironi Mau Summit Road. How do we intend to also finance it? Lastly, I can see the only balance we have for development is 64.552 billion. I think, as the rest of us have said, when the national government takes a cut, the county governments should also follow suit, because they are not any way different from the national government. We don't say that we don't support county governments. We support them fully. But what happens in the national government, in case there are cuts, that should also apply the same to the county governments. Thank you, and I submit.
Waziri, I think we've come to the end of our submissions from this side. I just wanted you to, as you respond, to say something on our fiscal space, and more particularly on the fact that we have 2 maturing loans in September and October. And how is Treasury preparing to address those particular issues, together with the matters of fiscal space? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, let me try to do my best, move faster. Honorable Kawanjiku, you asked me about public debt and what do we do going ahead. For me, this is a strategy. This is a strategy. The strategy is, first, consistently work on budget deficit over the years. In the medium term, if we consistently reduce our budget deficit, then we are likely to get out of the debt trap going forward. So how you get to reduce the debt deficit? And by the way, there has been serious attempts to reduce budget deficit over the years. If you look at 2020-2021, the budget deficit was 8.1%. The following year, ending 2022 June, it came down to 6.2. Then 2023 June, 5.6. Then 2024 June, it was at 5.3. We just made a mistake of thinking that we could take it from 5.3 in 2024 to 3.5 in 2025 in 1 year, by imagining that we could raise our revenue by more than 34% in 1 year. That has never worked anyway. In fact, economists, and Honorable Makali will tell you, would advise you that if you do that, it will be total civil unrest. And that is what we saw. This is something that was not accidental. Any jurisdiction that has ever attempted that would get into serious trouble with the citizen. And that is what we face. So it was just within what economists would project. And now you can see economists are right that you don't attempt that. Now, where are we? The budget deficit, as we are working on 4.9, so that it is below the 5.3. But the next financial year, we want it to go down to 4.3, the 2025-26. And finally, in the medium term, we want 3%. That should be the most desirable. The second thing about budgets, about managing debt, I wanted just to talk about 3 things. The second one is, how do we lower cost of debt? We should be taking cheaper debts to deal with more expensive debts. That's one way also of freeing yourself. Because you can't just wake up one morning and say, I'm going to pay all of my debts. It's not practical. So whatever debt you take, it should be cheaper than what you had to retire that old one. So that in the long run, you have cheaper debt, and that is one way of managing your debt. Now, if you look at what we have done, in terms of external debt, we had a bit of a challenge, because where do we go to? The multilaterals, which have cheaper debts of below 1%, are shrinking their offer to us. Yeah? The bilaterals, which are also cheap, like Japan, they don't have so much. So we go to commercial. Commercial is now more expensive than even some of the loans we took. That's why the recent liability management offer that we had, we had to balance it so that we remain debt neutral. We took a 9.5% debt to pay, which was lower than what was taken last year, to pay a 7% debt. So that is why we have taken a decision that half of that money is retiring that debt, but half of it should retire a more expensive debt, a 13% interest debt syndicated loan, so that we remain debt neutral. In domestic front, we are successful as at now. Why? Because I said, when I came into office, the 91-day treasury bill was trading at 15.6%. Last week, Thursday, I don't know what the percentage will be today, it was 8%. It has been going down consistently. Now, if you save 8%, if we can maintain these interest rates, say at 8%, which is the percentage I think last seen during when Kibaki was president. If we maintain 8% for 1 year and convert all the short-term borrowings, which is 900 billion, that is the 91-day, 182, and 364. The 900 billion, if you apply a saving of 8% on 900 billion, you save 72% 72 billion in 1 year. And that savings, that 72, you only need to add 14 billion and you pay the entire capitation from primary school, JSS, and secondary school. That is what it can do for us. And by the way, we managed to save about 24 billion in the last 6 months, from July to December, out of that. So our domestic debt is working for us at the moment. And I want to tie that to what Honorable Makali Mulo asked, why we are going domestic with it. Domestic has its risks. One, is that the interest rates are usually very high. At the moment, we are enjoying very low domestic interest rates, lower than Eurobond, something that has not been seen in a long period of time. But if we don't manage it well, it can go up again. So there I agree with Honorable Magali. But the other risk of domestic debt is we can crowd out the private sector. We are looking at the private sector and we are seeing we have a deepened capital market. We are not lacking resources to crowd out private sector. The problem we have is that the interest rates have been high. So the rate at which we are borrowing now cannot crowd out private sector. These are permutations that we have worked on. But then, external borrowing have a very serious risk of foreign currency fluctuation. If you look at what happened, you know, these Kenyans had not witnessed in a long period of time. That is why we thought external borrowings are always very good. But external borrowings have their risk. The risk here is, what happened last year is by January last year, or by December 2023, we had external debts of 6 trillion. And by shilling just appreciating from 160 to 130, that debt has come down from 6 to 5 trillion. What is the effect of that? First, you are saving on if you are paying the principal amount, you are paying less. Way less. A sixth less. But again, interest charged is also less. So if that continues over the period, you save quite a lot. Again, in that area, we are saving. So that risk also you must balance off with the risk of domestic debt and see where you are. So I think that I've explained even the dollar effect that Mheshimiwa you asked. But we can't go too low also. We can't also allow the shilling to appreciate too much. In fact, our assessment is that the shilling at 130 is the most reasonable for our economy. Because if you make shilling too strong, then you also discourage exports. And the moment you discourage exports, you will not have foreign exchange reserves. And you will be more exposed because now you don't have the ability even to pay your debts. So we have to balance it in a way that promotes exports and also manages imports. So you can see both exports and imports have been going up with 130 shillings or 129 shillings. That is a clear sign that that is a balancing rate that we should maintain. On, well, I think we have talked about sessional paper, but I agree with you. I think I need to get more to engage. But again, some of these things is just by sitting down with your colleagues and discussing, like when Honorable Kenaim, you came with your team to us. What we need to do now is to see, is there some deliberate efforts to mainstream that into the budget? What can we do? We may not do everything in 1 year, but we need to reflect inclusivity in our budget. Because it's expounded in our, including even the Article 201 on public finance, talks about inclusivity. It's a constitutional requirement. Enticing Kenyans coming, but can I just say something? I hope it will not be too controversial, you know. We have the media here, but it's okay. This is what I've been saying. If we cannot fight corruption and root it out, we better allow people who have got this illicit money to invest it here. Because, you see, they are stealing this money and escaping with it to Dubai and developing Tanzania, Dubai, and employing people there. What if that money which is building a mall in Tanzania from a Kenyan was building a mall here? How many Kenyans would be employed? So I was saying, the most desirable, fight corruption, root it out. If we fail, then allow it. And tell people, if you find a way, we will look for you somehow. But if you escape, just put it here. We will not follow you. If you escape with the ng'ombe, tutakuruhusu uchinje ng'ombe na sisi zote tukule. Badala ya escape with the ng'ombe to the bush and you allow hyenas to eat it there. But I hope that is not going to be very controversial. But it will be. So we need to. But again, but there are also Kenyans who are doing good investment out We just need to create a conducive environment for that investment. Equalization fund, I can't agree more. Arrears is there. The only challenge we have is the fiscal space. And again, now when you put it in a way that it is not meeting its objective, then I don't see why. And always reducing arrears. But we saved this financial year. I made sure that we didn't reduce the equalization fund. There was an attempt to reduce the equalization fund again, and I said we can't do that. New formula on sharing, I agree. We must look at the formula. This thing of saying where people don't live should not get money. You know, everybody needs, hata kama sisi ni watu watatu. We drink water the same way 10 people drink. So they may drink more, give them more, but make also water available for us. So just saying that an area should not get allocation because they don't have people, give population a percentage, but it should not be too much. Give area also a percentage commensurate with it. Give all other factors, including poverty index. Single treasury account, I think I've already mentioned this. I'll make sure. In fact, my PS is leading this to ensure that it is implemented. Public debt, high interest rate, crowding out, I think this I addressed. I have an advantage of broad-based government. I think I have an advantage of the confidence of the people of Kenya. I need to take advantage of that, yes. I agree. Reducing public participation budget. You know, Honorable Makali, it is true. Parliament has a role to play in budget process. This time, we know that the 2010 Constitution made Parliament budget-making body. And so, yes, the executive has the responsibility. They have a manifesto to implement. We have more advantage in terms of expertise to come up with what should be the most desirable budget. But for equity, there is need for people's representative to come in. And so there is need to have some allocation. And when actually we went to the US, this money we call public participation, it is my creation. We went with Honorable Mutava Musimi to the US, and we were told about this terminology that has now been abused of pork barrel. It is not a crime. In the US, it is recognized, the pork barrel. And that is where we got that terminology. And when we came back, I insisted to Honorable Mutava that we need to implement it. Now, there has been money for public participation. Unfortunately, there has also been abuse. And that is, I think, what... And this abuse, honorable members will allow me, it did not start recently. It has been there. Sometimes you do budget, then last minute, we used to complain with Honorable Makali here. Last minute, the chair comes with figures altered. I hope, Honorable Atandi, you will not do that. Figures altered. In fact, sometimes we used to get shocked on the floor of the House. These are not the figures that we passed. And now you are told the president has said. You know, you have no way of walking to State House to confirm and verify the facts, and you take it. And by the way, most chairs, if not all, have that unlimited access to head of state. So you would imagine that they have consulted. And you are members of that committee. You don't know. Now, you people had put the budget, but it was altered, the public participation. A lot of money were put in it. It was 18 billion, I hear. When Gen Zs revolted, it came down to 12.9. Now, a lot of it were in areas that were not making a lot of sense. So the head of state, when we met, and actually it was brought by the CS Roads, that look, I have a budget here, which I don't know where it came from. My people don't know where it came from. It came from your people. And the head of state told me, CS, this money, reallocate. I had no reason to object to that. But I think we left something out of that. Let me not go into the details. But public participation, I support. We need to still have it. Make sure that the counties we have identified, we give allocation so that there is that affirmative action So it is something I support. I'm sure when we get to budget estimate, tutaangalia hiyo. NGCDF, I made a promise. Unfortunately, I expected some external finances to come. In fact, even when I spoke in Naivasha, I said we will release the money, and if we get some external finances, I'll even do 2 months. There was a month I was supposed to do 2 months. But I only did 1 and didn't do the 2 months. Why? Because the external finances have not come. Actually, up to now, I'm waiting for some disbursement either this week or next week. So that is the challenge. We have actually been struggling with domestic finances. IMF did not give us the 9th review, money for the 9th review, because we didn't go to the 9th review. There was no time. This program is coming to an end on fast. We are losing about $780 million out of that, which we had factored in our budget. We are also, the World Bank has also not disbursed. There is this bill which you people still have, Parliament have, the conflict of interest and the social protection bill. Once those things are off the table, then World Bank will disburse. I have not received that money. So what do? The little money that I get, I balance off. Counties now have not been paid for January and February. And CDF as well. And GAF, I think 50%. So what I intend to do is the moment we get this money, I will make sure that the money is disbursed. It's not out of my liking. Sometimes you sit down and ask yourself, I have received 200 billion. In fact, that is probably sometimes the highest we get, maybe 210. Like this month, I'm looking at the progress, we may hit 210. You get 200 billion. This 200 billion, number one, you have debt to pay. Like January, February. 1 month, you are paying 55 billion shillings, Chinese loan. Month of January and February is very bad, including March, for the Chinese loans. That is the time we pay them. So you have 55 billion to pay. After paying 55 billion, you have won 145. The salary has now gone to 80 billion per month. You pay that salary to the staff, then whatever remains, you have the counties to release money to. You have security operation in Samburu. You have to release money to. You have, so you find you have literally no space. So what do? You say, okay, let me keep this waiting. When we get money, we'll release. Not that I am underplaying the role of CDF. The moment I am, okay, we will release all the arrears. Remember, this financial year, we brought forward 13 billion from the other year, which we cleared. That is the first one that we cleared paying. In fact, if that money was not there, by now I would have been over 50% in terms of paying CDF, probably. So, but we will make sure that before June, we clear all the CDF allocations and GAF. Honorable Pukose, how did we arrive at the amount of 405? We just did, first, we looked at what must be paid. Then we looked at what is remaining. And we are looking at also the costs of the counties in terms of costing of the functions. And we feel 405, which is an improvement from 387 in this year to 405. That is 18 billion more. We thought if we add counties 18 billion more this financial year, they would be able to run their activities. It may not be adequate, but there is no money. How will Trump administration impact? It impacts because the support that that U.S. has been giving us through USAID, though not within the budget, it's off budget, but provides essential services like health, some malaria, TB, HIV. All these cumulatively, including education, agriculture, is 52 billion. So we will just have to rearrange our budget. Those critical ones, maybe others will suffer, like support to democracy, where they have been supporting IBC. Those ones we may suffer, because if you know you have priorities, people have to survive, and whether you need to give civic education to electorate to know their rights to vote, and support to advocacy of the people who have been holding counties accountable. By the way, they have been doing a very good job. Kakamega, they are supporting Kilifi and all these counties where the citizens are given some training on how to hold counties to account. Those ones may suffer, but the essential ones will have to be maintained. They have indicated that they will not reduce their funding for some food support, especially in Kakuma, Dadaab, and others. They will also continue supporting some infectious diseases. Should Ebola strike us or something or another COVID, that they would still come in. Immunization, I need to check that. But they are cutting their programs from 100 to only 15.
Immunization is under
a global fund, yes. Actually, global fund, which again, the global fund is supported a lot, largely by the US. So it may. I had the team from Global Fund yesterday in my office. They have not indicated that there is a cut yet, but they are also worried. On the issue of why pending bills is not appearing, you know, we have been operating on cash basis of accounts, where we expend everything, and expenditures at cash level. So you buy something and you have not paid for it, it is assumed that Kenya has not even bought. So the pending bills has been just notes to the account. Now we are going to accrual basis of accounting, where every commitment must now be recognized in the body of the accounts. So that is why even in the budget you don't bring the pending bills, because they are not things that are paid. But we only recognize them as a footnote to the accounts. So that's why because we are moving to accrual, we wanted to ascertain the exact pending bills so that we capture them in our accounts going forward. A lot of it was also fictitious, so we couldn't just bring all that garbage to the system. So once that is completed, then now pending bills will form body of our account. You know, the way we have been accounting is very interesting. The way you expense this water is the same way the government expends motor vehicle. Once it's bought, it's expensed. Yet a motor vehicle has a longer period of, contributed to the economy. And you also asked about the pending bills that the county governments have to national government agencies. By the way, you find like KEMSA, we have to recapitalize KEMSA. You've just helped me allocate 1.5 billion to recapitalize KEMSA. Yet counties owe KEMSA. So we agreed, actually, I requested the head of summit, the chairman of the summit, His Excellency the President, that we must now enter into an agreement with counties on the issue of KEMSA, so that it forms part of an agreement. If they cannot be paying KEMSA, then we should find a system of getting that payment done at the CRF account, so that it goes, because we cannot be recapitalizing KEMSA forever, yet it is owed a lot of amount. And it happens, it runs in many other. You recently saw what happened when Kenya Power attempted to enforce payments from county government of Nairobi, and you saw the ugly incident that we witnessed. I don't think we should see that. Treasurer, because that is what the chairman also called you, treasurer of the ruling party. Securitization of the 7 shillings, you have just commended the government. By the way, when I took up this appointment, the first thing that I said, and which I mentioned to the president, is that if we cannot deal with the pending bills, especially in the road sector, then Kenyans will not appreciate however much we offer services. By the way, look around. This government, and I'm not, si kukutetea serikali, but kusema ukweli. Look at the markets being constructed in this country. I think it's more than any other time in the history of this country. If you look at the housing projects, better than any other time. If you look at TVET's construction, it's almost everywhere you find. So almost everything is being done. But ask majority of the people, they will still tell you, hatuoni hii serikali inafanya nini. So one of the reasons is majorly because of roads. You know, roads as a life, as a connection with people. We went to the president to Nyateke, and he took something to me which is economically changing the lives of the people, supporting rice farming in that area. And his people are clapping for him. He's saying, I'm bringing you, we are going to give you even money to mop up rice and all that and all that. And they are saying, before he finishes, lakini barabara ya kwenda Muhuru, unasema nini? Mpaka the president, juzi aliniuliza, make sure the road to Muhuru is in the budget, from Masara to Muhuru. Road has a connection with the people. So we had to take a conscious decision. It was really resisted by these people. This, you know, I'm nowadays the headmaster of Mandarins. The Mandarins, my Mandarins are the treasury. Really? Is that not correct? Actually, I will tell you, I almost became a lone ranger at the treasury to support this securitization. And I had to convince my team to support it. We supported it. I said I'm going to support it to the end. And it is something I support. In fact, I told them, I am ready to go to jail for securitizing 7 shillings to give Kenyans money to pay contractors. If it is found that I have violated any law, Constitution, PFM, please jail me for making money available so that our roads are done. I come from a place where there are no roads, and I know how we are suffering. So that is something that I was very deliberate on. Fortunately, the CS roads was equally so committed and sold into it. I think I have only 2-3 more questions. The one, how can we make sure that Kenyans get more disposable income? 2 ways. Now we are dealing with the pending bills. I don't want to go back to it. But the reduction of interest rates that banks charge to Kenyans is one way of giving Kenyans disposable income. How? Businesses will now be able to borrow and expand, and they will be creating jobs. If you had one outlet and you create a second one, definitely there will be Kenyans working there. They will have money in their pocket. One of the challenges we are facing, Chairman, is not even that there is a reduction in our income, in our salaries. You can earn the same salary, but if you are going to feed 5 other people with that salary, you will feel like your disposable income has shrunk. So we must help more Kenyans get income in their pockets. Lastly, direct taxes. We cannot continue increasing rates on direct income, employment income, direct taxes. Direct taxes have the potential of reducing disposable income, which again now reduce demand for goods and services, which then will reduce, as Honorable Makali told you, production, which then reduce employment. And the cycle is just, you get up to almost a cycle of poverty. Now, if you check what we did with the bill that you passed that is now a law, we have done something. Like someone who is earning 100,000, Honorable Pukose, the 2 levies that people are complaining about, the housing levy and SHA, take 4.275%, isn't it? So 4.25%, sorry. There is 2.75 and 1.5 of housing levy. So it takes your 4.25. This 4.25 of 100,000 is 4,250. That is the additional that you contribute. However, now, that money, if it didn't go to SHA and it didn't go to housing levy, you are paying tax on it of 30%. The moment you gave a relief to Kenyans that this money now will not be taxable, the effective amount that Kenyans are losing if you're earning 100,000 is not 4,250, but is 70% of 4,250, which is 2,975. But remember, there was NHIF you were paying before SHA came into effect. And for those who are earning 1,800, the 100,000, they were paying 1,800 to SHA, to NHIF. Now that is not being paid today. So 1,800, if you remove even the tax out of it, it is about 1,500. If you remove that from 2,950, you remain with only 1,475. So with what you did, which you should be very proud of, you provided a relief on a Kenyan who was paying about 4,000 more to only paying now 1,400 more. Yeah? So what we may need to do is, can we go back to where probably before the tax adjustments of 2023 were? And it is possible. We are looking at those options. Once we put them together, we will present them before you or the Finance Committee for ratification. Where will we get money for SGR? This is our discussion, that SGR terminating at Naivasha is not adding much economic value to this country. Uganda is already putting up their SGR side from Malava. It will not make sense if the SGR does not reach Malava and Uganda has invested so much money. And the reason why we wanted this SGR to be done was to open up Kenya market up to the west, open Uganda market, and in fact, Rwanda is very ready to also receive that SGR and do it all the way to Democratic Republic of Congo. Now, you will have a market from Mombasa all the way to Congo. You will open the whole of this region. But then, how do we fund it? This is the discussion that is going on. The discussion is that the current SGR, we are supposed to, over 80% of the loan is going to be paid up to 2029. Okay? Now, it is possible for us to negotiate a loan agreement with China for the component of this SGR with a grace period up to after 2029. So that is one. But we only want to source for about 30% from Exim Bank as a loan. The discussion is still ongoing. The other 30%, we want it to come from GOK funding, most particularly Railways Development Levy. And again, Kenya Railways can, if they cannot get this 30%, they can securitize, because they are receiving 45 now. The RDL has gone to 45 billion per year. They can securitize it. Then the last one of 40% should be through the consortium of those companies, Chinese companies. They come together, put their money. They will be charging, of course, for the use of the railway to pay back. So these are negotiations that the Ministry of Transport is leading. Now, on Mau Summit Road, or Rironi Mau Summit, this one from the discussion is around PPP. And I think the progress is very advanced. We want to do PPP from Nairobi all the way to Nyoro turnoff. That is what has been agreed on. There are people who think we should go all the way to Mau Summit with PPP, that it is still economically and commercially viable. There was the discussion that after Nyoro turnoff, that now it is not economically, because the PPP, they will not come and put money if it is not economically viable or commercially viable. So from here to Nyoro, the discussion is ongoing. There are so many interests, that is what I hear, or people want to put their money. The government has just to get the best out of it and make money also, because these people will be making money, so that we don't make mistakes that we almost made with the airport. But this one is a PPP. After Riron, if it terminates at Nyoro, then we must make sure that we do that 40 kilometers. Because again, if we crowd the traffic, goes from up to Mau Summit, the traffic is still very heavy. So if you just do it to Nyoro, then you'll have a problem ahead. So we are thinking of, if we cannot get an investor who does all the way to Mau Summit, and only terminates at Nyoro, how then do we finance the remaining 40 kilometers to get it to Mau Summit? And then after that, now the traffic starts getting thinner in all directions. Also, counties take a cut. Well, I agree, but Ochieng also had a point that counties have limited space to raise money on their own. And that the money that we are raising is actually, ONSO's revenue is still struggling. Of course, counties with also their problems. We are coming up with a system that is integrated as a harmonized system, but they are resisting still. So we are negotiating with them to agree, because we also don't want to appear like we are loading onto them, to understand that we need a uniform system which helps collect revenue across the country, so that we don't have one system working here, another one working there. Let me end my presentation, Chairman, with the issue that you raised. The fiscal space and the maturing loans. My understanding and position of the numbers that we have is that Kenya, our debt sustainability is still okay. That Kenya does not have a problem repaying its debts, but we have a problem of maturing of the debts. Kenya has a debt curve which is very heavy at one point. There is a point where the peak is very high, like Mount Kenya. Unfortunately for us in this room, we are in these offices when we have just hit the tip. We have just come to that point where maturing of debts is at its peak. Some people made decisions somewhere. Maybe some of us were part of it. I was in Parliament then, and we approved all this. Of course, some of us spoke, but that was as far as it went. Some of the people who made those decisions are around in this country. Now they are speaking like saints or angels. But they are not in office, so don't blame them. They will always tell you they did the right things. However, Chairman, I want to ask. Let's not talk about multilateral loans. We have the total, the domestic loans, I want to leave aside, because the domestic loans, we actually refinance. And now our rates are even cheaper. So we are taking cheaper loans to retire more expensive. So it is okay for us now. But the external financing, out of the 5.09 trillion that we had of external loans by January, 2.83 is in multilaterals, which are basically concessionary loans. But there is 1.09, which is under bilateral loans, not very expensive. However, 665 billion out of this 1 trillion is to China, which China helped us do a lot of infrastructure, so we should not condemn them. But this loan is very expensive. Unlike our domestic debts and Eurobond loans, this is a loan you don't refinance. Inakuja na unalipa interest na unalipa principal. And you pay about 120 billion in a year on this Chinese loan. So it is a very expensive one. It comes every year, January, February, March, problematic for us. Now, I want to take you to where there is a problem. Where there is a problem is commercial loans of 1.17 trillion as at January. This amount, over 800 billion is now Eurobond. Billion is now Eurobond. Over 800 billion. But let me just, and then about 325 is syndicated loans. The syndicated loans are the most expensive. They are at 12% to 14%. These are loans that people go to when you have a cash crisis. It's like Shylock. Sorry, I hope you people don't mention this. You know, they also help us at times. So, now, we have, before the Eurobond of the latest, we had 6.6 billion US dollars of Eurobond. Out of this, only 1.5 billion is maturing after 2034, and it is maturing in 2048. So between 2034 to 2048, you have no Eurobond to pay. But 5.1 billion has to be paid between now and 2034. 900 2027, 1 billion 2028, 1.5 billion 2031, 2032 1.2 billion, and 2034 1 billion. You can see how it is. 2027, 2028, 2029 unapumzika kidogo na 2030, 2031 you have 1.5, 2032 you have 1.2, 2033 unapumzika na 2034 you have 1 billion. 5.1 billion to pay US, and this is US dollars, not Kenya shilling, in this period of time of about 9 years. But isitoshe, out of that 325 billion, which I told you about, Chairman, of syndicated loan. Now listen to this. Yes. But don't repeat it again. I will be quoted as having called them Shiloh. They are not. They are. Now, out of this year alone, September, there is one of 200 million US dollars. That September, there is another one of 75 million euros. Then October, the following month, there is $646 million. If you add this total, it comes to about $952 million. That's almost $1 billion, meaning about 130 billion payable this year. And then you have them up to 2030. Beyond 2030, we don't have syndicated loan. That is where we are. So what happens? All of us must work together to pay this money. You can't run away from them. And you know, I'm brought into office just when we are hitting this tip. You know, sometimes I ask myself, this economy has been somehow okay, and no one offered me the opportunity to serve as CS National Treasury. Then you come and put me on Mount Kenya, and I've never climbed any mountain. So that is where we are, Chairman. And I know with the working together, because we have a responsibility here, then we will be able to surmount some of these challenges. Because challenges is part of human life. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Members, we've come to the end of this session. And before we conclude, I think our director for PBO just joined us.
There was something I was asked about counties. The pending bills in counties is ranging to almost 190 billion now. It's another area of serious concern. I just, because I was asked, I should have mentioned it. Sorry, Chairman.
Thank you. I was just saying that we were joined by our director for PBO when we were in the middle of this meeting. Let me allow him to just introduce himself or say something.
Thank you, sir. My name is Dr. Masine, Director of PBO, and I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc. Now we also have one of our new members, the MP for Laikipia County.
Thank you, Chairman. Jane Kagiri is my name, County MP Laikipia, suffering from severe flu. Nobody should touch this mic after me. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Jane is one of our new members of this prestigious committee. Jane, we welcome you, and sorry for the flu. Chairman, members, I think we all agree that whenever the CS appears before us, there's a lot of benefit that all of us have gained. I know you know that now you have been empowered even more. So we want to thank the CS for appearing today, and we want to assure you, the CS, that we are going to work together with you to support you. We know the difficult environment you're operating in, but I know this committee is willing to work with you to ensure that the country becomes a better place for all of us. We will never exhaust the issues that we have in one sitting. And as I said earlier, Waziri, that we would request you in the near future so that we can be able to indulge us in maybe a 2-day conference so that we can be able to raise all the issues that we have with you, and then your team can also be able to help us empower this committee better. So we are going to be consulting with the office to see whether this can be done as quickly as possible. And also as part of the orientation of this new committee. We have new members of the committee who have not interacted with the budgets or matters of the economy before. So I think it would be very important helpful for us to get that opportunity. Members, thank you very much for coming in your large numbers. We are going to continue in the afternoon and even tomorrow, because we have meeting Council of Governors and Commission on Revenue Allocation. Thank you very much, Waziri. We adjourn, and we request you to take for a photo session with us outside before you leave. Thank you. And also lunch. Thank you.